Tonight on Land Speculation, we're going to do some quacking. Because did you know, but there is ice in Minneapolis this winter. Today, the ice cold killing of a mother and a lot of aftermath. The internet is all a titter. There is chit-chatting and complaining and protesting and quacking and people complaining that the world is melting down. We're going to talk about all of the details about kind of what went down there. I don't even know. I don't know. Stuff went down in Minneapolis today. We're going to talk about that and other stuff going on in the world because it's a little weird out there. So stick with us tonight on Land Speculation.
Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack. This is Land. That ain't just speculation. Something we do is kinky. Quack, 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 quack.
Quack, 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 quack. Quack, 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 quack.
Honk, 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 honk. Where's your money?
That would be weird.
Ha, 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 ha. Ha, 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 ha. Let's see. I eat bars of soap for breakfast. I love bars of soap. After midnight, things get weird. Quack, quack, quack.
Oh no.
Let it go. Let it go. Cock.
I like that one.
Quack, 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 quack. Quack, quack, quack. Quack, 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 quack. Come on, ducks.
Oh, hey, the video's over. Sometimes I lose track. I was grabbing a fizzy water. Welcome, guys, to Land Speculation here tonight. I'm sorry about the voluminous nature of the notifications tonight about a variety of videos going live on both Land Speculation and our new sister channel, Land Ducks International. Sometimes I get a little bit overexcited. And when I was preloading videos into the system, I got a little overexcited. See, when I load stuff in there, sometimes I load it a few days ahead of time, and I schedule it to premiere at a particular time, and it defaults to premiering everything at midnight. And so we literally had like 4 videos that were all starting at the exact same time, or scheduled to start at the exact same time tonight. And so if you've got like multiple notifications for stuff that was all going live like all at once, I'm sure it was overwhelming. And I'm sorry to cause everyone stress and trauma especially when there is already so much stress and trauma going on in the world. And believe it, if you go on social media today, people are, well, they're very, very, very stressed about the state of the world, as I'm sure all of you are. And that's what we're going to try to provide today, is a little bit of calm, to try to ease everyone's anxieties here. I know the winter sometimes it's peaceful, sometimes there's snow falling off in the distance, and you look out with a cup of hot chocolate and the peace and the quiet, and the nice kind of dark early sunset thing, and it's really pleasant. But then other times it's like cold and miserable, and it's like the day after January 6th, and so you're already having you're shaking in your boots about that date because it's scary. And then you hear about ICE happening in Minneapolis, and then you worry about the fortunes of the poor dictator that was captured out of Venezuela, and you're like, boy, I hope he's doing okay in prison. I really feel for him. That poor innocent guy. And anyway, we're going to try to help make some sense out of that. Tonight is kind of I want to hear some of your thoughts. So we're going to make extra effort here tonight to make sure that you guys get a chance to share some of your voices here. So drop your chats and your hot takes in the chat. I'll be trying to sort of go back and forth between a few things and some of the thinking that you guys have. So welcome, Jeanette, Quiet Castle, and Spyman. I think you guys are the medal winners here tonight, so congratulations. We also have Lurky, Tilt, and am I forgetting anybody? Where's Nightbot? Nightbot's asleep? Oh, there's Nightbot. Nightbot's quacking away. Okay, good. Well, it's good to have you guys here tonight. I've heard that Prince Harry really likes hot chocolate. He's a 40-year-old man who is obsessed with hot chocolate. And he and Meghan Markle were trying to fulfill their Netflix deal. Well, they weren't trying. Netflix was trying to get them to fulfill their deal. And so there was an unrealized special that Prince Harry was, I guess, trying to create for Netflix, in which he was going to taste test different hot chocolates while chatting with people. And he was going to get paid like $200 million for this. And I was thinking, I could do that. Like, hot chocolate's not the healthiest thing in the world, but it's kind of tasty depending on like what hot chocolate you're drinking. Sometimes it's too silky, but sometimes it's good. Anyway, yeah, there's stuff going down in Minneapolis. Spyman saying, for some crazy reason, some people think it is okay to run over the police with their cars. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because interesting day. By the way, guys, if you wouldn't mind dropping a like and subscribing the video, the likes help us out with YouTube, the subscribes help you know when we're on. Check our description for the link to our Discord and the link to our Duck Fund, as well as the link to our sister channel, Land Ducks International. Always a laundry list of things to do when you join one of our live streams. That's part of the deal. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's talk a little bit about this Minneapolis thing, because this has been an interesting day, and everyone's talking about it. So this is the headline from the Huffington Post. I don't know, the Huffington Post, something about that I'm thinking like huffing and puffing. Somebody is hyperventilating out there while writing the, oh, Jeanette wants me to, okay, I'll pin the link, pinning the message. Thank you. Okay, I feel like they're hyperventilating when they write their headlines sometimes. Ice cold killing, mother mowed down. Well, that's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't know if that's supposed to be like a play on words, because she was going to really drive her car over people. But anyway, she was mowed down. I guess she was shot in the face. Very tragic. Obviously scared and pumped full of lead. That seems like awfully flippant as a headline for somebody literally being like shot to death in the face. It does seem like a National Enquirer title, Quiet. I agree with that. 6-year-old orphaned. Yeah, well, why not be as hyperbolic as we can be about this? I mean, I'm sure for her, I mean, she's dead, but for everyone close to her, I mean, tremendously traumatic event. And I think one of the things, we have committed to do here on Land Speculation on YouTube is not to follow what seems to be a societal trend on social media of, taking death as political sport. Sometimes you read social media and it feels like we're watching people get slaughtered in the Colosseum for entertainment, like it's the Roman Empire. And that is not the case. Like, people's lives are people's lives. You get to go around this world once. And when tragic things happen and someone loses their life, like, I don't care if they were an obnoxious activist or what. Like, unless you're like literally Osama bin Laden, like, it's a tragic thing when somebody gets killed. And, I don't know all the details of this case. I mean, people are all out there chatting about, their version of it from their political side of the aisle about how exactly this all went down in Minneapolis. I wasn't there. Sounds like, allegedly, that she was trying to drive over an ICE agent with her car or something, and somehow we found ourselves in an overbooked situation, and she got shot in the face. And yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not, like, I don't feel qualified to go in there and sort of relitigate every step by step of how exactly this went down. But it was a pretty significant incident that occurred in what is called the central neighborhood of Minneapolis. And I will talk a little bit about that here in a moment. It is a neighborhood that looks basically like any suburban neighborhood you would find anywhere in the country. And, unlike Cedar Riverside, which we detailed as the little Mogadishu of Minneapolis and went into a bit of a deep dive about the other week, the central neighborhood of Minneapolis doesn't feel like that. You don't like look at the neighborhood and think like, wow, that is a down on its luck neighborhood. It looks like just a normal suburban neighborhood, but then I was reading about the demographics of the neighborhood and how it has changed over time. It went from, basically a lily white suburb years ago to now it's 21% white, and overwhelmingly Hispanic immigrants live in that neighborhood. And clearly, if you follow the ICE data, had a lot of illegal immigrants living in it. And so I presume that's why ICE was active in that neighborhood. As you can see on the ground, there is lots of ICE everywhere. But of course, we're conflating terms because, we expect Minneapolis to be a little icy in the winter by some perspectives. Anyway, there's a lot of pictures of the aftermath of this scene, and no sooner did this happen than the protesters were out in full force. Lots and lots and lots of people gathered, and this became like the hot button that triggered the internet for the day, at least. And certainly in Minneapolis, people were out on the streets. People were asking about, like, is there going to be a protest right away for us to, demand ICE out of our city? They've already been demanding ICE out of their city for a while. Minneapolis, for whatever reason, has turned into like a really, really, really intense hotbed of progressive politics. I have spent a bit of time in Minneapolis over the course of the last year, and man, like, you wouldn't expect it, perhaps. You go to Portland, you go to Berkeley, you think like, okay, these are progressive places, you know what you're going to get. Minneapolis is a bit of a shock because you go into these like old school diner coffee shops that are clearly built to, have people in them like in the dead of winter when it's like negative 50 degrees outside. And you're going in them, you're drinking like regular black coffee in like an old-timey stained coffee mug. This is not like, hip, Gen Z coffee shops. This is old school diners where you're getting coffee in a stained mug and like eggs and toast, and none of it's very good, but it's on like some kind of old scratched up wood table where the legs aren't steady, and there's some waitress named Sheila that's coming around in like a little robe thing, filling your coffee, where they have the two different coffee pots with the different colored labels at the top. Like this is like 1980s style diner, and yet you talk to the people in Minneapolis, and it's like, goodness gracious, you could not get more progressive than these people. The energy is like, it is such unbelievably intense left-wing energy. It's like, where in the hell did this come from? Is it the long winters? Like, what is going on in the northern Midwest? Anyway, people seem to be really amped up about, was it the lady's fault for trying to ram the cop with her car? Or did the cop just decide, or I guess the cop, was it the ICE agent's fault for just blatantly going out and shooting her in cold blood? Depends who you listen to and what kind of media you consume. But at any rate, it seemed to gather a lot of traction here. Interestingly, the whole thing went down on a street called Portland Avenue. It seems almost coincidental. And on a very cold day in Minneapolis, too. Of course, it's January in Minneapolis. So this is the lady, poet and writer and wife and mom and shitty guitar strummer from Colorado, experiencing Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's how she described herself. When I think of places to go on vacation, I think Minneapolis in January. Some people just really, really, really like winter. Whether there were ulterior motives to her being there, I guess is for speculation for now. But we went to Chicago last January. You guys may remember that. And it was very cold when we were in Chicago last January. Her mom called her one of the kindest people she's ever known. She was extremely compassionate. She's taken care of people all her life. She was loving, forgiving, and affectionate. She was an amazing human being. Certainly sounds like somebody very full of empathy. And empathy seems to be very much a theme among folks who are concerned about ICE. And there is a lot of concern about ICE. And I was reading a little bit into ICE's presence in the central neighborhood of Minneapolis because I was reading some of the articles about this today and some of the neighbors complaining about how ICE has been terrorizing their community over the last several months. And I was very concerned about this terror, the terror that people were feeling in Minneapolis about the presence of ICE, which clearly came to a head today. And I was reading about some of the people that ICE has gone in and, out of the blue, like the Gestapo, snatched out of the community, as ICE is prone to. That's what ICE does, is they go into communities willy-nilly, or at least so social media has taught me. They go into communities willy-nilly and they just pluck people off the street because of the color of their skin. That certainly is a perception that's out there right now about how ICE is operating. So I was reading about some of the people that from what I can tell on the ICE, or Department of Homeland Security website, are people that were snatched off the streets in Minneapolis, or in this central. It's confusing because the neighborhood is called Central, and it's also kind of central in Minneapolis, although it's a little bit south. So the neighborhood of Central, so when I say it's like in central Minneapolis, you're thinking like downtown. No, this is a neighborhood called Central. It's very confusing. So I was reading about some of the people who were taken off the street here by ICE in Central. So this is one guy, according to the Homeland Security website, this guy is a criminal illegal alien from Somalia, convicted for the sexual abuse of a minor. So one of these neighborhood community members so cruelly snatched off the street by ICE in Minneapolis. Sounds like an upstanding citizen. Well, this is alleged based on material on the ICE website. This guy, a previously deported criminal illegal alien from Venezuela and a Tren de Aragua gang member convicted of theft. All right, more upstanding community members being snatched off the street in Minneapolis. There's this guy, he's from Ecuador. He's a criminal illegal alien convicted for domestic assault there in Minneapolis. You can see the snow behind him. And then it's all guys. Like, what is it with guys? Why are guys like this? Oh, man. Okay, there's this guy. He's a criminal illegal alien from the Dominican Republic, convicted for conspiracy to import at least 50 kilograms of cocaine. How much is a kilogram? Kilogram is like, that's what they measure people's weight in. So 50 kilograms sounds like, I guess that sounds like a lot. Is it like a human being's worth of cocaine? How much is 50 kilograms? Could you snort a human being's worth of cocaine? Like, if you had a sculpture like an Auguste Rodin sculpture, but instead of being made out of stone or bronze, the entire sculpture was made out of cocaine, and the whole thing weighed 50 kilograms. How long would it take to consume the entire 50 kilograms of cocaine? For those in our land speculation studio audience here, how much cocaine do you guys do on a daily basis? I feel like if I asked that as a poll question, that would be a little incriminating, wouldn't it? I guess I could ask, is there anybody here who wants to admit to, some amount of cocaine they have consumed in their, I assume it's like a candy bar and you just eat it. You just chomp on it. You're like, cocaine. It's okay. So 1 kilogram is a liter of water. Okay. So like a 2 liter of soda is 2 kilograms. So a liter and a kilogram are the same thing. So we're talking 25 2-liter bottles of cocaine. I mean, it seems like a lot. It doesn't seem like astronomically a lot, but it does seem like a lot. And that seems like that would be really expensive. Because I know from having watched the movie Cocaine Bear once on a cross-country flight. It's a really good movie, by the way. You should go watch it. It's about this saga. I can't remember where it was, like in the Andes Mountains, maybe? Somewhere that people go on vacation. A plane that was carrying a whole bunch of illegal cocaine crashed in the mountains, and thus the cocaine was sitting in the middle of the wilderness for the taking, and a whole family of black bears discovered it and became addicted to the cocaine, and then they went and terrorized the countryside. And then there were like rival bands of competing gang members that went to go get the cocaine, but they had to fight with these cocaine bears. And they make the cocaine bears seem really scary in the movie. One of the best movies I have ever watched in my life. Legend X says I would never touch drugs, never tried cocaine unless it's prescriptions. Inquiring Minds, welcome to Land Speculation on YouTube, says you would probably be dead before you got too far. Yeah, okay, so not a lot of cocaine going on here in our chat. I guess I shouldn't be this flippant about cocaine. Like, cocaine's really bad. Bad stuff. I'm mixing liquid and weight measurements. So, okay, I really don't know, like, volume-wise, what is the difference? Like, how much is a kilogram of cocaine? Is it basically the equivalent to, like, a brick the size of a 2-liter bottle of soda? That's what I guess I'm assuming here. Anyway, that's what this guy was doing. He was importing 25 2-liter bottles of cocaine into Minneapolis. And it's good because Minneapolis, like, it's all winter, it's really snowy, it blends in. You walk around with your 2-liter just sipping on your cocaine, and you're just like, no, it's just snow. I'm just eating the snow. Care Bear is not the same thing as cocaine bears. Man, is YouTube going to be mad that I'm saying cocaine this much? Like, is that a bad thing? Is that going to get us flagged? Anyway, okay, so this guy was importing a lot of cocaine. So we've got sexual abuse of a minor, we've got domestic abuse, we've got Tren de Aragua gang members, we've got theft. Okay, we've got the cocaine going on. We've got, okay, this guy this guy also in the central neighborhood, so it appears, of Minneapolis, from Somalia, convicted for robbery and domestic assault. It's like you go to Arby's. Why get one roast beef sandwich when you can get five? Go for everything you can go for. Robbery and domestic assault. So yeah, lots of interesting folks there in the central neighborhood of Minneapolis, and ICE has been terrorizing this community and absconding with these poor neighbors off the street, and everyone's really upset about that. Because who wouldn't want sexual abusers of minors and cocaine importers and whatnot on your streets? They are part of the community just like all of us, and let he who is without sin cast the first stone. So ICE apparently very active in the central neighborhood of Minneapolis. It really, I guess, came to a head. So this woman, whatever she was doing there, rest in peace. Whatever she was doing there, she certainly, it's tragic that she perished. For sure, we don't know what she was up to or exactly the sequence of events that went down. Other people are probably speculating plenty about that. Either she was aggressively trying to mow down the ICE officer, or the ICE officer was just like, looks like a sunny day, I guess I'll shoot her in the face. I don't know, something like that went down. And it has people really, really, really riled up. Man, like just in a few hours, this is like a powder keg. And that's not meant to be a pun. How many kilograms are in a keg? Okay, this crystal clear video of ICE shooting a U.S. citizen in the head is what Trump's golden age looks like. Yes, this is what Trump meant when he meant golden age, is ICE agents shooting protesters in the head, I guess. A regime of terror capitalism imposed on subjects across the Americas to protect economic plunder by a decadent class of Zionist tech plutocrats. Don't you love the internet and social media and the ability to string words together? I don't even know what to say here. Okay, there are 110 kilograms in a keg, says Newton Kane. So that guy was gonna import half a keg. Like half, so it's like a powder half keg. So now we have the full powder keg in Minneapolis. And yes, there are lots of takes on social media today of all kinds. Oh, the Epstein regime. Okay, let's double check that headline again. The Epstein regime. Yeah. I don't know. We've done a couple streams on some of the stuff in the Epstein tapes. Why does nobody actually bother to go read about the transcripts of what's actually in the Epstein tapes? Michael Wolff has hundreds of hours of Epstein tapes. We know exactly what Epstein thought. But apparently Epstein is like running this administration from beyond the grave or something. Okay, here. So this was prescient. These guys knew ahead of time what was going to happen. ICE out of Minnesota march and rally. This was December 20th in Minneapolis. We love our immigrant neighbors. Yes. There's a thing, like everything in life takes a little bit of balance, because it's a really nice thing to say we love our immigrant neighbors and we want to be empathetic to everyone. And then you look at the rap sheets of some of these people that were taken off the street in the central neighborhood of Minneapolis. And again, central is a neighborhood. It is not centrally located in Minneapolis. It's confusing. The people that were taken off the streets from the central neighborhood of Minneapolis. And I don't know if they are the kinds of neighbors you would say that you love, from what I can tell. And I don't know if there were other people that were actually just really great people. that we're, but there are limits to the efficacy of a society that is exclusively rooted in empathy. Like, empathy's great. We should all challenge ourselves to be better people at all times. Like, it feels good to be an empathetic person. And at the same time, like, if someone murders a full of school children, like, I don't know that that's the kind of person you want to be empathetic for. Now, if it's like every other second of that person's entire life was them doing great deeds, I don't know how you balance that. I don't know how you weigh those relative things. Okay, there's more. Just spend some time to, okay, Minneapolis, thousands demand ICE out of Minnesota. Okay, we're now demanding ICE out of Minnesota, but people have been demanding ICE out of Minnesota. And it's weird because all these pictures are taken here in January where Minnesota is full of ICE. And it does make me wonder, like, why did people move to Minnesota if they didn't like ICE? It's part of the deal. You live in Minnesota, ICE is like something you deal with for 10 months a year. But just as the central neighborhood of Minnesota is a weird, confusing double entendre, so is talking about ICE in Minneapolis. The Minneapolis mayor today, look at how cool he is. He doesn't wear a tie, but he wears a suit jacket. That's like the young apprentice, the hip guy. Get the F out. And he didn't say F, he said the actual word. He's very angry at ICE. What is the guy on the right doing? Is he smoking or something? What is going on there? He really doesn't like ICE and is telling him to get the F out. And, it's interesting because Tim Walz is now talking about mobilizing the National Guard because, I guess Minneapolis has sort of decimated its police force, or so it seemed, post George Floyd in 2020, because bad police and, we need social work. So maybe we can send social workers to go convince ICE to leave alone the child predators in the neighborhood because we love our immigrant neighbors. But Tim Walz, governor extraordinaire here in Minneapolis, has now said he's going to notify the National Guard for mobilization in Minneapolis to go fight ICE in the streets. That's what I'm gathering from this. National Guard is prepared to deploy if needed to assist with public safety. Is this Trump playing 4D chess again? Like the idea that Trump secretly wanted he wanted the National Guard to be on the streets of Minneapolis, but he knew Governor Tim Walz would oppose it unless he sent in ICE to go terrorize the community, that would then convince Tim Walz to say that he wants the National Guard on the streets. So Trump is actually just getting what he wants. I don't know. The mayor was a little instigating, says Inquiring Minds. Not right. Not professional. Good to see you, James Games, and Calming the Chaos. Thanks for stopping by here on Land Speculation on YouTube. We're just chit-chatting tonight, so it's good to see you. And, yeah. And everyone else. There's a lot of people on this video that aren't chatting. If you're here and you're not chatting, say something. Just do not do drugs is a pretty, certainly like cocaine. That seems like a bad one. Seems like, I don't know what there's not a lot of redeeming things there. So I guess now we're going to have the National Guard out on the street engaged in hand-to-hand combat with ICE. Is it just me, or does it feel like America, everybody's just bored and we're trying to convince ourselves that we should be having some kind of hand-to-hand civil combat in the streets? When you're a kid, you can just grab a lightsaber and go fight with your friend on the playground. But then as an adult, it's weird to go fight a stranger on the playground. But everyone secretly still kind of wants that. And some people become sports fans, and then we sort of do that with our sports teams. And then some people go on X, and then they go yell at each other. But now we've all decided that we don't want to exist on the same social media platforms. So now we don't have enough enemies anymore. So now we want to actually go fight hand-to-hand combat in the streets because our lives are too boring. Otherwise, if we're not engaged in some outlet for this like animalistic bloodlust we have cultivated in ourselves over thousands of years that we find like we need an outlet for it. And so now we're going to cosplay like a civil war between ICE and the Minneapolis National Guard. And of course, neither of them will actually engage in any kind of combat, but it has everyone all jazzed up in their heads that we're all going to just like go out there. We're going to fight each other. Our side's going to win because, yeah, we're on the right side of history. We're the moral arbiters. We believe in facts. The other side rejects science. They're bad. We're good. We're going to win the block battle. We play ice hockey on the street. We can, you know, our federal troops are going to beat their federal police people, or vice versa. It's kind of like I do kind of wish sometimes, like as an adult, that I could like play lightsaber battles with other random like the last. So you can kind of like, of course, as a kid you could do that all the time, and like, yeah, you might get punished, but teachers expect it. They expect you to be like throwing stuff at each other in class. You know, not like TVs. You don't like throw a TV at someone, but like throw a paper airplane at someone in class. Like growing up, like people do that. That's just kids being kids. You know, lightsaber battle on the playground, fine. You know, even like, you know, less so in high school. You know, you get to like college, you can if you're in college, you can sometimes like you're not doing that, but like you can have like a snowball fight on the quad with your friends in college. Like you don't see that much with like 50-year-old people where they're just like getting together on like the town square and like we're going to have a lightsaber battle. People think you're weird if you're doing that at age 50. And so instead we go firebomb federal buildings because, yeah, and we kind of like drive people over with our cars, and you know, maybe we're not quite that bold, so we then go cosplay. You know, you don't want to get like yourself in trouble. You want your troops, you know, your frontliners, your group of rabid, overly politicized social media warrior militia people to go fight their rabid warrior social media militia people. And now here it's like we've got the ICE people can go fight the National Guard. National Guard in Minnesota are good. National Guard in DC are bad. Sometimes it's hard to make sense of the cosplaying that's out there. Zulu, thanks for joining us here on Land Speculation on YouTube. I agree that militarized, anonymous secret police is a good idea. Also agree that states' rights are stupid. Yeah, I don't know if yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Militarized, anonymous secret police. I think they're robot police. Robot police that will randomly snatch up, like, it'll be like that famous short story, The Lottery. Like, we're going to send out, like, robot secret police. And, like, 1 out of every 1,000 people, they will pluck off the street randomly. And so it's like the odds aren't high enough that you wouldn't, like, go out and just live your life because you have to. But still, the odds, like 1 in 1,000, there's a chance. You know, there's a chance, at least, that somebody you know is going to be the person that's snatched off the street. But yeah, I don't know. This is okay. Here's an ICE poster. Report all foreign invaders. Help your country and yourself. Yeah, Uncle Sam there telling you to report all foreign invaders. Robots and Teslas. Maybe the Teslas could drive over people. Maybe the Teslas could drive over the ICE agents. Man, that would confuse social media. Because like then who do you side with? Because like I guess social media would be happy the ICE agent was taken out, but they would be mad because it was a Tesla doing it. Would Tesla suddenly be good again? Man, it is tedious to keep up with the terminally online, politically addicted social media class, and what's good and what's bad, and what kind of proxy battles we are waging. Thousands march in the cold to demand ICE out of Minneapolis. Okay, this I think is a few weeks old. And how prescient it was, because, I guess there's collateral that happens here. Sometimes you get the child predator off the street, and then sometimes, the woman gets shot in the face. Tragic stuff. And it's all a little bit, it's a little coincidental, because these are actual headlines from this year. The ICE is out on Lake Minnetonka earlier this year than usual. This is because we have reversed global warming. This year, the ice is out earlier than usual. There is more ice in Minneapolis this year, literally, than there usually is. And it's almost like some kind of cosmic force is creating some kind of joke analogy on the city of Minneapolis, or on the people of Minneapolis. Maybe the winter deity was like, you want ice out of Minneapolis? I'll show you. I'm going to freeze over your lakes even earlier. But then the ice fishermen are like, hell yeah, that'll give us more weeks to go be out there ice fishing, which is a thing, especially in northern Minnesota. Cultural thing. I've never been ice fishing. Has anybody been ice fishing? I just don't understand how you keep the little ice fishing cabin warm enough. Or if you just really, really, really have to keep yourself, like you're just wearing really, really thick jackets. There is a whole different wardrobe you have if you live in the Great Lakes than if you live south. You just have different kinds of jackets and scarves and gloves and stuff. Emergency ice whistles. So is that like when the ice starts cracking, you blow your whistle? Or is that like when ice shows up to steal away your family members, do you blow it then? I don't know. This is Minneapolis. Yeah, Minneapolis in the winter, man. It's a depressing city even in the summer. It's really nice in some ways. It is a family-friendly city. Minnesota, that's a nice place. Minnesota. It's lakes and outdoor activities, and it's the Midwest, and everyone's friendly. People are friendly there. They're friendly there, especially if you agree with them. You start, they get on their political rants, you start agreeing with them. They're very friendly. But man, it is a cold, depressing part of the world. There's no stores on the streets downtown because they're just always prepared for winter. And then when you actually have winter, it's just there's nobody around. There's snow everywhere. There's ice everywhere. It just sits there for months and months. It never melts. It's just there. And everyone's just used to it. There's something comforting about being in a place where when it snows, it's weird. But when you're in a place where everybody just knows this is how it is for 15 months a year in Minneapolis, it snows. Yeah, you go to the grocery store, everyone apologizes to you even if nothing happened. Everyone that's how they greet each other, is apologies. Vanilla Ice once had a song called Ice Ice. I think I knew that. What happened to Vanilla Ice? Is Vanilla Ice still around? Is that somebody that died? I don't know. Yeah, so let's light candles. Light candles here tonight for the saga of everyone who has gone through tough times in Minneapolis here. Candles, of course. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy that a woman that was pretty young lost her life. And I don't ever on this channel, even when we were trying to be a little bit, make light of some of the absurdities in the world, which we try to a lot because, like, what am I supposed to say about this frickin' incident? Like, some nights I just don't have it in me to be like, I'm gonna be like super hyper partisan outrage news cycle. Like, sometimes you take a step back and you're like, this is all silly. And it is silly. It's silly that people are cosplaying this like ridiculous battle, but some of the underlying issues aren't so silly. And the fact that somebody like was shot in the face and lost their life is like, it's profoundly tragic. It's like really bad. And like, it disgusts me how much people use these horrifying deaths as political incidents online. Whatever her motives were, however this all went down, somebody loses their life, that's a tragedy. And I don't know, like, you can, it's serious, but it's not serious. The whole ICE thing, the perspectives on it, I don't know whether to be like sarcastic or I don't know what to say, guys. That's why like I trust you guys to come up with the talking points here. So I need your thoughts. But let's light candles for ICE, for the woman, for the poor sexual predators who have had to live in fear for the last however many months that their neighborhood has been terrorized, for the neighbors of those sexual predators who have been terrorized by the notion that their sexual predator friend neighbors would be taken off the streets. Light candles for all of the people who are shaking in their boots over fear that ICE is going to abscond with them, even though they are an American citizen just sitting in their suburban basement. Light candles for Tim Walz, light candles for the National Guard, light candles for... Lighting candles will melt the ice, is what I'm trying to say. Religion Act says my name is William, like their name, his name, her name, not my name. If you live in the Midwest, you get to know people. You get to know people you harm. You visit their families. You go to their funerals. The apologies never end. I like. See, you guys know, like I'm a Midwesterner at heart. Like I am. I hail from the Midwest. It's in my DNA. Somehow, however that works. It's in my DNA, it's in my rearing. I like the Midwest, I identify with the Midwest, I get along with Midwesterners, I have Midwestern values, and yet I have spent most of my life, I guess, in other parts of the world, other parts of the country, the East Coast, West Coast. And there are parts of the Midwest, whenever I experience it, that drive me up the wall. Like, you don't have to chit-chat with everyone all the freaking time. Yes, I come on here and I ramble for hours on a live stream, but it's because I choose to. Just because we both happen to be walking down the street does not mean we need to talk to each other. Like, can we just stare off into space and pretend like each other don't exist? Please. Dorothy threw water on the wicked witch, causing her demise. So the story says, although I've heard that like Wicked portrays the whole Wizard of Oz in a different light, that the Wicked Witch was actually a good thing. I don't know how that works. I don't know what the body composition is of somebody who's made of, I guess, is she like made of straw? How does that work? Like, I don't understand the organic compound that could comprise someone where water literally causes their entire body to melt. Is it like a skin condition? Because like otherwise, how do you make like blood flow? Like human bodies are like 75% water. Like water is the lifeblood of people. So does the witch have water in her body, but she has a skin condition where the water like melts her skin and then the blood drains from her body? I don't even know. I don't understand how the witch works. Lurky, I can talk all I want, but very seldom does anyone understand what I say. I don't know if anyone understands what I say. I just keep talking and people keep watching, like not in huge numbers, but people do keep watching these videos. And so I guess that means that either maybe it's just like this. I've been told the sound of my voice helps put people to sleep, which is either a really nice thing or one of the most insulting things someone could say to you. But I guess there are people that listen to our videos and then fall asleep to them. I do notice that sometimes that the chat kind of drifts off as we do these videos. Of course, we do them late at night. Maybe it's just the sound of the voice and nobody's actually paying attention to the contents of what we're saying, which I guess I understand. Do we get lost in our own thoughts and we're like, I think people understand what I'm saying and find it really profound, and then you guys are like, what a moron. I just listen to that guy because I think he's an idiot. And then I laugh and I invite all my friends over to laugh. But it's a fair trade because he gets the views and the revenue from the views. But we get a good time. We just laugh. Land ASMR. Oh, it was holy water they splashed on the Wicked Witch? Man, the things I did with holy water as a kid. When I was in the 6th grade, I was on a basketball team, and we were not a good basketball team. I mean, like compared to NBA players, I don't know that many 6th grade basketball teams are that talented, but we weren't that good even in a league among other 6th graders. Believe it or not, like we weren't that good. I was excellent. I was one of the best 6th grade basketball players in my own house at the time. But we didn't win that many games. I think we were like 3-7 or 4-6. Or I don't even remember how many games you play in a season. It's probably a few more than that at that age for basketball. It was like 14 games or something. We weren't that good, but we did go to a tournament that year. We got invited to go play at a postseason tournament, and the reason we made the playoffs that year, which was it was a fluke of luck that we made the playoffs that year, despite having not that great of a record, because the reason was that everyone made the playoffs, and so we made the playoffs. And we played a team that was much better than us in the playoffs, in the first round of the playoffs, and the playoff game was held at some far-flung Catholic school way out in a distant suburb somewhere else across town. And so we all got there early and we were prepping for this game, and we're all jazzed up there in our uniforms, like we're going to go probably lose this game to this other team. And we were playing with basketballs in the hall outside of the gym, because the gym was only so big enough that like one game could happen at a time, and the previous game was still going on between two other random teams. So we're all hanging out in the hall, throwing basketballs at each other. And I had a friend who thought it would be a really fun idea if we took the game ball that we were about to play the game with. When you're that age, you play with a sort of reduced size basketball. It's 28.5 inches in diameter. And he took the game ball that we were about to go play the game with, and he dunked it in the vat of holy water that sat in front of the statue of Mary outside the chapel at this school. And so we played that entire game with a basketball that had been blessed in the elixir of the Holy Spirit. That basketball was coated with holy water. And lo and behold, we played the best game of our season. We went in there and we beat the crap out of that other team. We beat them 25-16, which is the kind of basketball scores you have when you're in the 6th grade, because people aren't very good at shooting and everyone doesn't play very well. And we won that game. We advanced to the second round of the playoffs. And in the second round of the playoffs, without the holy water, we got beat very, very badly by some other team. But that is the single event in my life that convinced me that God is real and that holy water matters. And from then on, the things that I did with holy water are things that I can only share on story time on future streams. Tilt-A-Whirl says you tempted this chat with Venezuela. Hey, Tilt, we're not done. We're not done. We got some Venezuela coming. If you want some Venezuela, we can do some Venezuela. All right, we'll do a little bit of Venezuela. Jerry Carter, good to see you. Good to see you in the chat. Yeah, the moral of the story is before you play the game, dip your balls in holy water. Good things will happen. Should we do an ad? I'll do a little bit of Venezuela, but we should do an ad for somebody. 1 through 15. I need a number. 1 through 15. Five. 5 is a good number. Let's see what we got. Okay, we'll do number 5. Let me see if I have 5. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay. It's like the old sitcom telephone numbers. Here we go. Add 5 coming up.
Hi, Quiet Castle here. I hope you're enjoying our interactive chat. If you like hanging out with us here on YouTube, just a reminder you can continue the conversation over on our Discord. It's a fun place to hang out. We have questions of the day, you can post links and memes, post photos, debate things, and chat with your fellow land ducks any time of the day or night. It's also a great place to interact with the mods and with Land directly. It's free to join and easy to use. You can open it right up in your browser, so give it a try. The link to join is in the description.
All right, we are back on Land Speculation on YouTube. That was a very noisy castle. Taking a break from his normal role as Quiet Castle here. Quiet does have a nice voice. I agree with that, Jeanette. All right, a little bit of Venezuela, just a little bit, like a small sliver of Venezuela. Let's see. Okay, I got to find the right things to turn on and turn off here. Ah, you wouldn't believe how complicated things get. Okay, now I got to find the right slides. Oh, okay, well, we can do a couple other things here while we're at it. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so this is Washington the other night. It was an interesting night. So we had like the begin. This is the beginning of America's 250th birthday year. America is now 200 and well, it's almost 250 years old. We are 249 going on 250. And to kick the year off, there were a whole bunch of cool light things that were happening at the Washington Monument late at night. And it was cold as all get out here in Washington, D.C. Those nights. And so we actually didn't get out and stream it, but this is what it kind of looked like. There were some other images being shown on the side of the Washington Monument, and they shot off fireworks a couple times at like random times. And then they were shooting off fireworks at 7 in the frickin' morning on Monday, which was disconcerting, let's say, to wake up to that. And I don't know why they were doing that, or if that was part of like a photo op or something. It looks like a pointy patriotic wiener, says James Games. It's very eloquent. I believe it was a light show. I don't know how they projected the lights onto the Washington Monument, but I assume they have people that can do that using lights. Anyway, it was pretty cool. And I'm sure they'll do other stuff here over the course of this year, and we'll get out there and try to see as much of it as we can, especially when the weather gets a little better. And that was just in time for the great there was a celebratory thing for January 6th. A group of people came to Washington, D.C. to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of America's almost Liberation Day, or whatever they think January 6th was. But it was like a positive. This was not like we don't like January 6th. This was like January 6th was a great day. We need to commemorate it. So they came to D.C. They did like a protest thing at the Ellipse, and then they walked down down Pennsylvania Avenue to the Capitol building, and were like, "Rah rah, January 6th, honor the people that lost their lives," or whatever happened. And shockingly, somehow an event commemorating January 6th ended up in a big skirmish where protesters showed up, and there was a big fight in front of the Willard Hotel, which is normally a very prestigious, fancy hotel with a great little French bakery. And, it was a good time. People had a big fight there because, it's just people cosplaying the Civil War or whatever. And then, just to sort of counter the passion play that the January 6th commemorators were doing, the congressional Democrats came out to have a literal candlelight vigil on the steps of the Capitol in memory of January 6th. Look, it's literally when you put up the luminarias at Christmas time. They're literally all holding fake plastic candles in memory of January 6th. In DC, people tend to get lost, like in the bubble of DC. They call DC like Hollywood for ugly people. So people don't realize how cringeworthy they're being in this city. They say that DC is a city that is full of 8th grade class presidents. And the problem is, when you put an entire city full of 8th grade class presidents, there's no bully there. There's no bully there to stuff anybody in the locker and tell the 8th grade class president that you're a dork for running for class president in 8th grade. And I say that affectionately. I'll leave it at that. Land frequents a lot of French bakeries. I don't know if that's supposed to be a dig, Jerry Carter, but I do like a good French bakery. I'm certainly a croissant connoisseur. I do like French bakeries. Of course, there's just a difference in the butter quality. in France. I don't know what it is about the French dairy industry. I have not done a deep dive into the French dairy industry. Butter is better in France, like top to bottom. So you will almost always have better croissants, even at mediocre bakeries in France, than you have anywhere in the United States. But it is perpetually a quest of mine to find good croissants in the United States. Oh yeah, okay, so there was a big stabbing. There was a nice little stabbing at Grand Central Station, New York City subway doing the New York City subway things. Zoran Mamdani was he was I guess declared he was inaugurated mayor a few days ago, and he was mad at ICE. We know he's going to usher in the warmth of collectivism. The warmth of collectivism is upon us. Everyone gets to get stabbed. Woman of 57 slashed in the face by female stranger during clash on New York City train near Grand Central. One person stabs another person in the face. It's a clash. It's like sometimes you get into a clash with somebody that comes and stabs you. And then there's JD Vance's house. This was in the news. JD Vance's house in Cincinnati. We literally have a video that'll be going up later this month on LANDCasts International, our sister channel. Join it. Subscribe. There's interesting stuff that we posted there, but almost every day on LANDCasts International. We have a video where we actually go and see it ourselves in person, the JD Vance house in Cincinnati. And little did we know that when we shot that video, we were giving you a bit of a foreshadowing taste of what was going to transpire there, as this guy, I don't know if he looks like he's some kind of ambiguous age between like 14 and 35. So I don't know if he's a kid or if he's an adult or what he is, or she is, because it sounded like there was some transition thing that had happened like within the last 2 weeks, and I can't remember which direction it went. Anyway, JD Vance's house, this person like broke through security, went up to the house, started smashing windows with a hammer, and did $28,000 worth of damage. And I don't know how much damage that is on a house that's probably worth close to $1 million. It's a historic house. Is believed to have been part of the Underground Railroad, designed by famous Cincinnati architect Samuel Hannaford, who also designed the city's City Hall. It's a nice looking house. It's not like the nicest house I've ever seen. It's a decent looking historic house. Has a big front lawn. And I will say, having driven past it, I was a little struck when I did that by the seeming lack of security at the house. They had a fence. The fence had a little sign saying, "Don't broach the fence." But there was only one car parked in the driveway that looked like a security vehicle, and no one was in it. And it looked like you could, in theory, have walked right by that car and made your way up to the house. And I guess that's what happened here. Cincy Psychichluk says about 1 million. Okay, that's, yeah. Cincinnati houses are not super expensive by like DC standards. Plantation, like, it was an older house. Cincinnati was, in the north, but it was the first stop in the north during the Underground Railroad era. So anyway, that's the house. Again, you got to subscribe to our sister channel, LANDCasts International, if you want like the full context for what that house looks like and the video outside the house. I'm going to keep people like on the edge of their seat. I checked it. It's literally a 46-second video. Don't get your hopes up. It's not that exciting, but we do on the ground reporting as part of our land speculation and LANDCasts International channels, and that will be proof. So anyway, yeah, this is the individual who did this there on the right, the son of a prominent doctor in the community. They have the family seemed like a very upstanding family in a very nice part of town. And this individual, I think born male, but had transitioned like within the last 2 weeks, had started referring to themselves as a female. And I don't know what the deal was with why they did this, and I guess we'll get to the bottom of that, or maybe we won't. And yeah, there is the front gate of the house. And as you can see, there's a fence around a lot of the house, but then the actual driveway area there isn't. And then there's that like one SUV that normally is parked there when he's not home. When JD Vance is out of town, there's just one like security SUV there parked as deterrence, and nobody's in it. So in theory, you can just walk right up to the house. And I guess that's what this individual did. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what the plan was. Break the windows with a hammer and then do what? Exactly, I don't know. So that happened because we live in an unhinged time when I feel like we've sort of pivoted as a cultural collective, where for a while like school shootings were the thing that were happening all the time, and now it seems like we're sort of pivoting slowly toward an era where political violence is more common, or political vandalism, or whatever. George, good to see you here in the chat as well. Anybody else who I'm missing who has just kind of trickled in here? Good to see you guys here. If you missed the Minneapolis portion of our show, that's over. So we're moving on to a few other things here. We're talking about other interesting events. January 6th commemoration. We're talking about JD Vance. Let's see what else we got. Oh, yeah. Maduro. Like, I thought this was going to be like the thing that everybody's talking about, but foreign policy is a little bit less sexy than our domestic culture wars. And so even though we just did like a strong arm takeover of like a giant foreign nation that is the wealthiest oil country on earth, or the most oil rich country on earth, we seem to have kind of like we've kind of bumped it to a back burner topic because, why talk about that when we could talk about ICE in Minneapolis? Anyway, this is not Maduro. This is a confusing image. Maybe this is not Maduro's casket. This is the casket of one of the people who, I guess, was one of the Venezuelan troops that was killed as part of the American raids that led to the capture of Maduro. So in Venezuela, they of course had defense troops at the Air Force base that were bombed. I guess it was the gravesite of Hugo Chavez was bombed, and then as the American military did their infiltration of the safe house where Maduro was staying, they, obviously people were returning fire, and then the military was firing back, and a bunch of Venezuelan people got killed along the way. And so Venezuela is now in the process of burying and mourning those individuals. I was watching some stuff about exactly how this American raid went down. We detailed some of that the other day. And, there are obviously sort of animations that are out there now. AI lets you do anything. This is the remnants, I guess, of the house where Maduro was staying. Amazing, just amazing military operation. Like, I can't believe that anybody planned this and thought this would go down without a hitch. And I even more can't believe that it actually went down without a hitch. It just seems like a mission that was like destined to fail. And yet somehow they pulled it off. I mean, the number of things that had to go right, and the amount of, like, sometimes you're like attacking a fortification. You got like a helicopter hovering over the building, people descending via like a helicopter ladder. You got planes around the helicopter shooting at the anti-aircraft people that are shooting at the helicopter. And then these people got to descend into the house. They got to get through the security in the house. They got to go find Maduro and his wife. They got to get them out of their bunker. They got to get them out of the house while also shooting all the security people. And then they somehow got to get the helicopter, get everybody back up into the helicopter, and then get the helicopter out of Dodge, back to the aircraft carrier while dodging anti-aircraft fire from the Air Force Base. So they got to bomb the Air Force Base at the same time. Like, it's just a crazy, crazy, crazy mission that they pulled this off. Like, it seems like, he was saying it's like the most complex mission like of this sort, like in like 50 years that the military has done. Like, it certainly seems more complicated than the bin Laden raid back in 2011. Certainly more precarious, more dangerous, more ballsy that the U.S. did this. Did you guys see that that Somalia was in the United Nations today condemning this attack, which is like, holy crap, I don't even know like which dimension of this to like provide commentary about. Somalia is at the United Nations condemning the U.S. for taking out Maduro. Like Somalia, a country that is rife with all kinds of political violence and factionalism and militias and gangs that operate every street corner, while also conducting like some kind of systemic, allegedly systemic fraud operation in the United States to steal money from the United States, condemning the U.S. for taking out a dictator in Somalia, and now American social media is all pissed off that America would take out the narco-terrorist in Venezuela. I don't know. It was not a mansion. It was a safe house. He has a different mansion. We detailed this in our other video. There is a separate presidential palace there in Caracas where Maduro normally stayed at, but for whatever reason, he happened to be at this safe house that was part of this fort on the top of the hill there in Caracas. And that's where they went in and they took him out. And now he's sitting in the same Brooklyn jail as Diddy and Sam Bankman-Fried and Luigi Mangione and the former home of Ghislaine Maxwell. Like, do you understand like how ridiculous this is? Like, Diddy, Sam Bankman-Fried, Luigi Mangione, and Nicolas Maduro walk into a bar together. Like, they are literally behind bars together in the same prison. Like, what kind of clown world are we living in? Anyway, Somalia is not happy that we took out the narco-terrorist in Venezuela. And now it is the Donroe Doctrine taking shape. Get it? It's like the Monroe Doctrine, but it's Donroe. It was Don Trump. It's good. So this is taking shape now, and because it's Trump, it's a bad thing. So, yeah, this is Venezuela. We're implementing the Donroe Doctrine, basically that the U.S. is going to stop narco-terrorist states that are catering to China and Russia in South America, because we believe that we should control our hemisphere and that we should have purview over our oil, which means Russian oil is less valuable, which means China has less of a stronghold in our backyard, which means drugs and illegal immigration that is flowing through Venezuela, up through Central America, through Mexico, has less of a home, but maybe it doesn't, because maybe we aren't going to install somebody good enough to sustain the peace there in a way that's beneficial to us. But at least as of today, there is, I guess, a commitment that we're going to get some Venezuelan oil, which is fun because then we have oil. I keep many kegs of oil in my house because oil is important. Chuck Mangione is the brother of Luigi Mangione. They went in very different paths with their lives. If Luigi Mangione ends up getting the death penalty, it would be quite ironic if Chuck Mangione ends up playing taps at the funeral. Family affair. Jerry says Panama should be next. Apparently the Colombian leader is sort of cozying up to Trump now, I guess, to try to save their situation. Like, it's just a little scare into people now here. Like, you come out and you take out the dictator of a country, now everyone's a little scared. Colombia immediately, like when this first happened, they condemned this, but now they're kind of, backing up a little bit. They're next to Venezuela. They're a slightly better actor, but not really. They're not a very good actor either. Part of the problem in this part of the world is like everything's got to flow up through this narrow choke point. If you're trying to get drugs up to the U.S., you got to ship it across the Caribbean, or you got to smuggle it up through Panama, which you would think would be easy to stop because it's pretty narrow. The problem is these borders are all squiggly between these countries. It's like, how do you draw the longest possible border covering a very narrow piece of land? And they managed to do that, so it's very hard to police the entire borders of these countries. And so we're able to, sneak a whole bunch of drugs through. It is kind of like annoying that we just sort of take as a given that there's a whole bunch of drugs being cranked out of this part of the world, and the only question that we care about is, are we able to stop it or not? Like, why is this happening in the first place? Like, nobody's sitting out there being like, France isn't doing a good enough job stopping the cocaine flowing in from Liechtenstein. The border's too long. France needs to do a better job of policing the border. Like, in Liechtenstein, they're not producing a bunch of cocaine to ship into France. Why are they not producing cocaine in Liechtenstein? But they are producing cocaine in Venezuela and Colombia and wherever else in South America. And it's just like a given that all this cocaine is flowing up into the U.S. and various gangs are making this happen. Like, I guess climate is part of it. So anyway, this is the Monroe Doctrine. This is the new take on the Monroe Doctrine. James Monroe, of course, was president from 1817 to 1825. You can go visit James Monroe's house down in Virginia. You go to Charlottesville. Monticello is a really exciting thing. That's Thomas Jefferson's house. If you got the second day of vacation, you can go visit the homestead of James Monroe, who was not known as being like one of our smartest presidents. He was just kind of a guy. But, it's kind of a cool era. That was like maybe America's peak. In some ways. 1817 to 1825, because we had finally gotten our independence. We finally won the War of 1812. And we're like, finally, we're rid of those stupid British, and we can, like, commandeer our whole domain and figure out what we're about. We don't have to deal with any, like, moral constraints on what we're doing. We can just go take over the world. And so it was... during this era, and America was still basically an East Coast country at the time. You just got to put this in context, that when the Monroe Doctrine was formed, like, America was only a very small piece of what was believed to be a very large continent. And the Monroe Doctrine is one of the most misunderstood things that exists out there. It is often confused with the notion of manifest destiny, which I think if you are... one of these sort of America bad progressive types who believes that sort of everything America does is this like imperialist bad thing, you're probably more against manifest destiny perhaps than you would be against the actual Monroe Doctrine. So the manifest destiny was the 19th century belief that the United States was divinely ordained to expand across North America, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, spreading democracy and capitalism as inevitable and justified. That is the notion that fueled westward expansion through the land acquisitions of the Louisiana Purchase, Texas, Oregon, the Mexican-American War, and settler migration across the Midwest and elsewhere, justified the forcible removal of Native Americans, intensified debates over slavery, and shaped American identity. I love the way that encyclopedias write things to be as, like, politically safe as possible. Faced criticism for aggressive nature. Yeah, if it was today, we probably couldn't do it because it would be deemed mean and bad and America bad and Native people good and all that stuff. That's manifest destiny. That's not quite the same thing as the Monroe Doctrine, which is a little bit different. The Monroe Doctrine, which is the doctrine actually articulated by James Monroe and now here refreshed by Donald Trump, was originally established in 1823, the U.S. policy warning European powers against further colonization or interference or encroachment in the Western Hemisphere. So the premise here, this is not about like taking over territory per se. This is about preventing Europe from coming in and interfering in our hemisphere. When we became a country, obviously that was because the British had tried to establish colonies here, as had the French, as had the Spanish. Back to the days of Christopher Columbus, Europe was trying to like assert influence in North America. But James Monroe was like, no, we're a country, we're going to control this hemisphere. We will have dominance over our hemisphere, and Europe won't. And this is much more relevant to what Donald Trump is doing. And just in case you are confused, The Western Hemisphere is that. It is North America. It is South America. It is Greenland. It is Spain and Great Britain until you get to Greenwich, where you can actually go stand on the line between the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere. And so Donald Trump is not renewing Manifest Destiny. That would be like the idea of imperialism. But he is renewing the idea of the Monroe Doctrine, which is that other countries around the world have no business interfering in our hemisphere. And these days it's less France and Britain that we're worried about. It's more China and Russia, but particularly China. We really, China's like, they're trying to shore up their own world out there, the South China Sea. We definitely don't want China coming into Venezuela and trying to take our oil. Our oil, as in it's in the Western Hemisphere, therefore it is America's for the taking. And maybe America's bad for that. Maybe we're immoral, but that is the price we pay for living in this morally bankrupt hellscape of a country that has shaped democracy and prosperity and capitalism and enriched people and freed people around the world and all that kind of stuff. But we're bad. Real bad. Bad country. So, this is our hemisphere. So says Donald Trump here. James Monroe, James Donroe, Donald Donroe, Donald Trumpro. I don't know. I haven't seen the plaque for James Monroe at the White House. Trump put up those plaques about Joe Biden and Barack Obama that are kind of like, third world dictatorship worthy. Very insulting plaques. I don't know if you get to the older presidents if he has the same level of vitriol expressed on the plaques, but I'm curious what he says about James Monroe. James Monroe is kind of an interesting president. He's one of those underrated, kind of understudied historic presidents. There should be somebody should write a book about James Monroe. I'm sure nobody ever has. Somebody should write another one. It would be good. Okay, so things that are therefore very much priorities of the Monroe Doctrine, or at least, maybe not publicly, but behind the scenes very much, would be preeminent priorities to making sure the Monroe Doctrine sticks here and we're able to shore up dominance of our hemisphere. Number one, of course, would be securing the Caribbean Sea. The Caribbean Sea is dotted with some kind of dysfunctional countries. Cuba is still sitting there. That was like the Soviet domain for a long time. But if America is going to have dominion over our hemisphere, we need to shore up the Caribbean Sea because, again, a lot of drugs are flowing out of South America up through the Caribbean Sea up into the United States. And that is not a good thing. So the Caribbean Sea actually is probably the foremost priority of the Monroe Doctrine. The second thing that is an important priority here is making sure the Panama Canal is safe, is America friendly, is not overcharging America. You know that in the past this has been a priority for Donald Trump. So Caribbean Sea, we're shooting down the drug boats. Panama Canal, Donald Trump has aggressively negotiated America's continued access to the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal used to be controlled by America. Jimmy Carter gave it away to the Panamanians. The Panamanians have increasingly made it friendly to China and other countries at the expense of the United States. Donald Trump is like, that's not fair. Joe Biden didn't care, but Donald Trump seemed to care a lot. Making sure the Panama Canal is free and open so that we can ship things up through the narrow part between North America and South America. Big part of ensuring the Monroe Doctrine. Mexico is a giant country, big piece of land, hugely borders the United States. At some point, we'll do a stream about the U.S.-Mexico border. That's a really interesting topic. But Mexico has questionable political leadership. It has drug gangs. It has poor water quality. It has all kinds of issues. Making sure that Mexico is an ally, Mexico can produce stuff, that making sure that stuff doesn't compete with U.S. goods, Mexico is a pretty important part of the Don Roe doctrine, too. And of course, that at times has been a priority for Donald Trump, especially in his first term. He was all over Mexico and trying to kind of bully them a little bit into compliance with U.S. ambitions. Another part of the Don Roe doctrine: Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Brazil, Ecuador, Peru. These are all big countries. For whatever reason, South America seems very susceptible to these socialist despots who broker in all kinds of bad stuff. Their economies get good. Their people are like, let's try collectivism. Dictators like, sounds good. I'm going to be a dictator and make a bunch of gangs and poverty. But then people are like, oh no, that's not what we meant. And then we're stuck with dictators and poverty and corruption, and it's bad because then we get drugs and we get oil getting shipped to China and bad stuff. So this collection of countries, South America, get your act together. Stop settling for like socialist, communist, dictator, bad types. Like, stop being seduced by the notion of leadership that will crush your country's economy and doom you into poverty that will then incentivize the drug trade. Like, just stick with like pro-Western capitalism, please. Like, I don't know why this is so hard. Clearly it's hard. Go to social media. Everyone loves socialism and communism. I don't know why, but it's very seductive and seems to be very, very particularly alluring in this part of the world. So that's an important part of the Don Roe doctrine. And then Central America too. You get this like narrow little bit of land. All the stuff flows up. The migrant caravans, the drug flow, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, relatively small countries, relatively weak governments, a lot of bad stuff flowing up through there. We got to get Central America under control. Important part of the Don Roe doctrine. Not a bad thing, honestly, to like make that the hallmark of your presidency is that you shored up the Western Hemisphere. Like, we don't typically have presidents that think big in the way that early American presidents used to think big. And I don't know if Donald Trump's doing it just because he wants a legacy or whether he's doing it because he actually views the world like a chessboard. But we probably for a while have needed a president that actually looks at the world like a chessboard. So if you can like make that the hallmark of your presidency, that you shored up the Western Hemisphere for like a century and put America on better footing for resources, for trade, for the security of our people, that's not a bad thing to be focused on. The northern or northwest passage is now a very big component of the Don Roe doctrine. This is why Donald Trump is so fixated on Greenland and Canada, and why he believes they are impotent and feckless and incapable of doing what it takes to secure the future for North America. Because of climate change, in part, the ability to move ships through the northern passage of the world is open. That means that there is competition between the U.S. and Russia about who is kind of going to control the sea at the top of the world. You don't want Russia and China using northern Canada and Greenland as outposts to do nefarious things. There's also a lot of resources that are being unlocked at the top of the world that used to be buried under ice and now are extractable. New technologies to extract oil and other precious rare earth metals that exist in abundance at the top of the world. The Northwest Passage is very important. And again, Donald Trump thinks Canada and Denmark are they're weak. They're weak. They don't have much of a military to speak of. They believe that everything should be done through polite diplomacy and not, meaningful, like forcible power. And, Donald Trump would rather the U.S. control this part of the world. That's why he's continued to make a push for Greenland. And hell, there's a lot of people freaking out right now about the U.S. is actually going to go do this Greenland thing. We're actually going to go try to commandeer Greenland, which would become a very big story and probably would be a bigger story than one person being shot in Minneapolis. But since we live in a clown world of unserious politics, we fret more about our domestic culture war stuff than major generational takeovers that could trigger a world war and transfer massive swaths of territory to our country. So the Northwest Passage is a big part of the Don Roe doctrine. This is Greenland. Has some very colorful houses. I believe the population of the entire country of Greenland is like 56,000. The biggest community in Greenland is a city called Godthab or Nuuk. I don't know. I think those mean the same thing in various languages. Fun little community. I think I would be curious to go to Greenland on vacation. I don't know that you really can or should, but I would be curious. I should explore it sometime. I don't know what you do there. I'm sure it's pretty. I'm sure it kind of looks otherworldly. It'd be kind of fun. When you fly to Europe from Chicago, you tend to fly over Greenland. Take a little pit stop. The houses have to be built very warmly there. It gets very cold in Greenland. But sometimes it's not so cold, and sometimes the snow melts and you can see the ground. And that's what's happening. You know, you get these kinds of communities where part of the year anyway, it's just kind of like a regular community. Little rural town up in the mountains. Not a lot of people. I mean, not a lot of big super highways that connect these communities. So you're generally taking little prop planes or little boats between stuff. Parts of the year, it's like you're not able to travel between stuff. Denmark is, I guess, becoming a little bit more democratic internally. I think Trump was hopeful that like the people of Denmark or the people of Greenland would revolt against the government of Denmark, and I think they were a little surprised. JD Vance went to Greenland, and they were a little surprised that, like, shockingly, the people of Greenland actually aren't that pro-U.S. And so the idea of spawning a domestic coup in Greenland didn't really materialize. And so now I think Donald Trump is relegated to the notion that if we're going to take Greenland, it's going to be by force. Yeah, and see, there's like, you know, swaths of Greenland. Remember we were always hearing about the Greenland ice sheet years ago? And now no one cares. You know, Al Gore was like, the Greenland ice sheet's going to be gone and it'll be the end of the world. And now it's either gone or it's not, and the world's still here and nobody cares. Anyway, there's swaths of Greenland that like aren't snowy part of the year, and there's probably some really precious stuff sitting under the surface that we could extract. And as Jeanette says in the chat, it's fighting for our culture. It's also fighting for like our economic viability in the 21st century. If we don't fight for that, then what the hell are we doing? Like, you know, it's great as a country that we can be empathetic to everyone else and fight for everyone else's interests. But like at some point we do need to actually like sustain ourselves as a country. And back in the early days of the country, I think that was a little clearer. I think we've gotten a little muddled. You know, everyone wants to be benevolent, but no one wants to give up all their double wide fridges. Like, we need to keep our living standards here at the top of the world, and being a country means that you actually do have domestic interests, and it's not evil to have them. So what can we extract from Greenland underground? Well, there's a lot sitting underground in Greenland. There's some maps out there. I thought I put one in this show, but I didn't. Anyway, there's some maps. Like, the whole edge of Greenland has a whole bunch of rare earth metals that we can extract. And, you know, right now we can't as much because, again, Denmark controls it. And whether Denmark knows how to get that stuff out of the ground is a question mark. Arctic Cockwe, I guess, wants to make a trade with somebody that lives in Greenland. All right, let's see what's going on here in the live chat. What do you guys got? Oh wait, no, hang on. I do have the map. I didn't realize this. There is the map of Greenland's rare earth metals and other precious resources. It's all at the edge. You know, the middle's still ice, but the edges, we could go plunder that stuff like, you know, pirates in the 1600s. I don't know, what was the golden age of pirates? Okay, let's see. What do we have going on here in the chat? I gotta jump between windows. There's so much going on. Nightbot's confused as usual. Great. How long would it take an average human to eat the entire country of Greenland? Those are the kinds of hard-hitting, thoughtful questions that we like to ponder here on Land Speculation on YouTube. That would be an interesting subject for an entire deep dive. We have to quantify. We're assuming that people could eat like the rock, the underlying bedrock of the country. Like how deep underground do we need to go? Or are we just talking about like the arable land on Greenland probably isn't that much, so I don't know how much food is being produced on Greenland. I guess along the way you would probably have to eat a bunch of houses, and you'd have to eat 56,000 people. You'd have to eat probably some cars and some prop planes. You'd probably have to eat a lot of snow. You'd have to eat probably some oil, some rare earth metals, probably a lot of rock, a little bit of grass, a little bit of vegetation. It's big. I mean, like land-wise, it's very big. It would probably take you well over a lifetime, assuming you had infinite life. How many years would that take to eat the entire country of Greenland, assuming you could eat all of the components that make up the country? We'd have to put some ground rules, because if you go too deep underground, like at some point, you stop eating the bedrock, and then you're just eating like the groundwater and the whatever, like the tectonic plates and the lava, and you get eventually to like the core of the earth, which is really, really, really hot and not very edible. I have no idea how to actually get to an answer on that, but it would be worth a deep dive that I'm sure people around the world would search up and watch. Very good question, James. I very much appreciate that. To walk over the entirety of Greenland, would that take maybe 2 months? How long would it take? I think I've asked Google Earth to look things like this up. If you were to walk across America, how long would that take? I have this vague recollection when I was growing up of some kind of presentation at school. Like when I was like I was too young to understand it, but there was some guy that became famous for walking across the entire world, which I never really understood because there are oceans in the way. So I don't know what that meant, to walk across the entire world. But I guess that was his shtick, is he walked across the entire world. I don't know how long that took him. I don't know what that means either. Like, you just show up in like New York City and you walk to Los Angeles and you just keep going the whole time, like Forrest Gump. Yeah, I don't know how long that would take to walk across Greenland, but I'm sure we could look that up. It's just, you figure out how many miles that is. Some of it's going to be pretty treacherous hiking, though. You're going to need some good snowshoes. I'm not sure what the price was, but it was affordable for an individual to buy Greenland in 2016, says Tilt. $50,000. Yeah, I don't think it was for sale, though. That's the problem. Like, some things just, it doesn't matter how cheap it is. If it's not for sale, it's not for sale. Think of the amount of money and resources we've given to people in countries around the world, says Quiet Castle, while we've ignored our own country. Now we have a $40 trillion national debt. Well, there's some, balance there, because you do have to exert soft influence around the world and maintain your foreign policy in order to be able to have a safe domestic front. But sometimes, yeah, we probably get a little overextended. And we have taught like a whole generation of young people, I guess, this sort of benevolent ethos, which is that we should like be helpful and good and, privilege the needs of other people. But, at what point do we privilege the needs of ourselves? Does Denmark own Greenland? Yes. Yes, like Denmark is, and they're not selling it. So it would be like but you only control the territory that you can control, like as a country. There's no innate right to have a country. Like you have to be able to defend your borders to have a country. And if Denmark can't defend the borders against the U.S. military, then in theory the U.S. military could take Greenland, just as Russia has taken the Donbass from Ukraine, and there's nothing Ukraine can do about it. There are natural resources there, yes. One person should not have been shot in Minneapolis. Yeah, it would be great if somebody hadn't been shot in Minneapolis. They say Greenland is cold and Iceland is green, so they say. There's a fair bit of ice in Greenland, or in Iceland too. Arctic cockweed is a hawk here. Let's claim it. Tilt-a-whirl, if Trump wants to make me happy, I would like the Panama Canal back. I'm sure that Trump cares very much about your happiness. Iceland looks close enough to be considered North America from this angle. Yeah, Iceland's kind of like more out there than people realize. It's culturally very European, but, you know, we could take that too. All right, all right. The Panama Canal and the property around it should be ours. Venezuela staying out of the international banking system is a good thing. They are like one of 8 or 9 countries still in charge of their own money. Their money is worth nothing. Cities around our own country have communist leaders now. Yeah, New York City is going to be interesting theater. Yeah, I have one charger. I've been trying to like juggle it between different devices. I don't like when my phone drops below 99%, but sometimes it does. Puffy, thanks for telling us about your weed consumption. Villagenac, never hate our own country or burn the flag. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of shitty to burn our own flag. It's disrespectful. It's, you know, the lack of gratitude, I think, you know, gets to people. Quiet Castle says our own education system teaches our own children to hate their own country, in some cases. BRICS complicates the Donroe Doctrine. Man, that's like one of those things I wanted to do in the distant future somewhere. BRICS currency. Yeah, like, it doesn't do a lot of good for all the people that want to like dissolve the Federal Reserve. Like, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Don't do that. All right. All right. French Guyana looks like low-hanging fruit. Yeah, we never really got Jonestown off the ground. I guess we could go, you know, pull up that experiment again. Squiggly is a great word. Squiggly is a word. Cruise ship tickets. Man, if we could get Cuba going, cruises to Cuba would be great. I mean, I don't know, not cruises to Cuba, just like vacations on Cuba. Chuck Mangione is the trumpet player. Yes. I don't know if Luigi Mangione plays any instruments. Nightbot, you can't say, like, YouTube is not into those kinds of theories. Nightbot, like, oh, the day in the life of Mrs. Perkins. That is a long username. What's the limit on YouTube for the number of characters you can have in a username? But yes, good morning. It's good to see you here, assuming you're still hanging out. Zero Cool. Hi, Zero Cool. Thanks for joining us here on Land Speculation on YouTube. I think we had a couple other people here. Oh, yeah, Cincy Psychoclick. Yeah, Yes, probably I go backwards here, and then I lose track of where I was in the chat, and it's probably confusing for you guys because it just looks like I'm scrolling randomly. The winner tonight is Arctic Cockwe. Congratulations to Arctic Cockwe. Excellent work. Well deserved. James Games, I've never been to Greenland, and I've never been to Denver, and I've never plundered treasure in St. Louis or St. Paul. I have been to 3 of those 4. I have a lot of thoughts about Denver. Someday I could do, probably not a full stream. Maybe I'll do like a 10-minute land rant someday about Denver. That's a good thought. James Games, I've never been to Boston. I have been to Boston in the fall. It's very cold. Boston's best in the summer. We should just take all of North, Central, and South America. Why not just take the entire world, and then we could make it all America, and then we could impose a worldwide globalist government just like Hillary wanted all along. See, the globalists were right from the very beginning. John Denver. One of the things I don't understand is why, of all American cultural influences, there is no single thing that is more influential than the John Denver song Country Roads. I don't know why. In across Asia, people eat that song with a spoon. There are people across Asia that know not a damn thing about the United States, but they sure as hell have heard of West Virginia. And it's a good little peppy song, especially like the little disco techno version of it. It's a good song. Tilt-A-Whirl misses the hotel videos. Tilt-A-Whirl, if you subscribe to our new sister channel, LANDCasts International, the link is pinned in the chat. If you subscribe to LANDCasts International, there is a new hotel tour that is released on LANDCasts International every 2 weeks. And I will keep releasing them for as long as it takes until I eventually someday probably catch up and run out of hotel tours. But I have a hell of a lot of them. I have a lot of hotel tours. So every other Saturday, there will be a new hotel tour. I think they release Friday nights. And then sometimes we'll pull some together, do compilation nights, premiere nights with multiple hotels. But we're trying to, for the purpose of the algorithm, for the purpose of just making things clean and clear for you guys, we're just aggregating some of our content. So if you want some of that, the raw, you really want to feel it in your bones, that raw footage from places. LANDCasts International, journeys around the world, spiked by the occasional hotel tour. And then you want Land's thoughts, opinions, chit chats, things like that. Intellectual content. You come to Land Speculation. Ideally, you want both, and you subscribe to both, and you watch all our content, and you send it to your army of acquaintances, and then they all send it to their army of acquaintances, and then we get rich together. We all get rich together, and I pocket the proceeds, like Maduro. More old person ads and medicine ads, adult diaper ads. We could start throwing in some fake ads on our channel. I do get the emails from there. You probably watch channels where they do the actual ads for actual products on the channel itself. I get the occasional emails from various companies that want us to make a deal with them to advertise their product on our videos. I haven't really done any of those. They seem a little sketch. I don't know which ones are legit and which ones aren't. And I don't know. I can't like vouch for all those products. You know, Factor meals. I know that's a pretty fancy one. I think those are overpriced. Unless we ever did ads for them, in which case they'd be great. But there are things out there like that. And I could probably spin a pretty good yarn of faux endorsement for some crappy product I don't use, pretending that I do use it. And I think I could probably, be pretty creative about that. And it would make it well worth their money to do that. So if anybody has a product they want us to advertise, if you want us to like fake advertise a fake product, just tell me what it is and we can probably work that in somewhere. So Tilt-A-Whirl wants ads for adult diapers. You can definitely tell what kind of platform you're watching, who the target audience is based on the kinds of ads that you're getting. Man, it's a shock to the system to go watch like cable news every once in a while. And it's just like it's nonstop. Well, you watch like Fox News, it's drug commercials. It used to be the My Pillow stuff, that's long gone, but like that was a big one for a long time. Especially in that era when all the advertisers cut out after January 6th. But you get like a lot of gold. Any conservative media, you're getting like a lot of gold. You're getting like a lot of emergency food kits. Like you're getting stuff that's tailored for older audiences, like people in their 70s, and like the most paranoid people in America. Then you watch other stuff and like, man, it's a culture shock depending on what you're watching, what kind of ads you get. You do a little check on yourself. Like, what demo am I being slotted into by the algorithm based on the kinds of ads you're getting? Village Knack, I like farms and red barns. A nice freshly painted red barn. That is a nice look. I like driving through the countryside, seeing those like when a barn is sort of caved in and it's fallen apart. There's something rustic and beautiful about it. I'm sure it sucks for the person who owns the barn, but like there is something very rustic and beautiful about that, particularly in the wintertime. All right, I think that's what we got, guys. That's our stream for tonight. Congratulations to Arctic Cockaway on the win. Thank you to our moderators, Quiet Castle, Jeanette, James Games, and Nightbot, all working very hard on behalf of our channel. We always appreciate everything they do. And for you guys for like finding us and being part of our conversations and putting up, I mean, you guys can probably tell, we have evolved our channel a little bit. We are continuing to evolve our channel. Some of that is to sort of keep up with the Joneses here on YouTube. Some of it's just sort of test some new things. There is a pace of output of shorter videos, as you probably can tell, that are kind of spitting out from time to time on our channel. That's intentional. We're just sort of experimenting with some things. We also want to play with some different formats to get things out there in some different ways, in addition to the live streams. Feedback on that is, certainly welcome. And hopefully it's interesting stuff too, here and there. Short videos, long videos, premieres, lives, all of it. And then as the weather gets better, we'll do more outdoor stuff too. So, sorry if it's confusing as we work out the kinks here. Same with the ads. We are working out our kinks. Sometimes when you have kinks, you need to experiment a little bit with them. And I appreciate everyone's patience as you watch as we do. So, yes, a little plug for the future. Keep watching as we experiment with our kinks. That's what we got for now. Don't be strangers. We'll be back. This is Land. Oh, like and subscribe, all that stuff. Like, subscribe, Discord, Duck Fund. Like, subscribe. Jesus Christ, I just said that. These things run on autopilot in my head. I was literally going to say the exact same thing twice in a row. That's what you get on a channel where we stream at 3 in the morning. Don't be strangers. We'll be back. This is Land, that ancient speculation. For now, I hope you all have a good night.
Mm-hmm.